Go. I guess. I don't know what other tags I should put. It's fine. Alright. Let me send out notification. Why do I have a notification here? What? Oh. Okay. Okay. Okay, that's that. Stream Elements is telling me that I'm live, so that's cool. Is my microphone working? Let me refresh my preview here and we can test. Okay, test. Can I hear that? Okay, test. Nice. All right, there we go. Sweet. Mic works first try. Let's go. Let's go. How do I edit? I can't edit my go live notification. I feel like I should do that so that if people have notifications turned on, they know what I'm about to work on or about to do. Because, like, you know, I've got Slay the Spire, I've got the Steam game. I forget what it's called every time. Steam World Quest Hand of Gilgamesh. I've got Slay the Spire. I've got all the good stuff. Let me get set up a little bit here. I have everything pulled up. I just need to make sure that I've got, like... Okay, I lied. I don't have everything pulled up. So that's what I'm doing now. What is this? I don't know what that is. Okay. Whoops, didn't mean to close out of that. Okay, hang on. What? Okay, that was weird. Sorry, I realize I'm reacting to stuff that's happening that you can't see, but... Yo, what's up, Glitch? Unlurk. Okay, sorry. I'm getting stuff set up. Getting everything pulled up and everything. Everything. Okay. So, I've got stuff to show you. Let me switch. Let me switch. Here we go. Okay. Why is... I should add a background to chat. Hang on. Properties. Background color. Well, I can change the background color, but it won't let me... Well, let me change the opacity. What? Why? Okay, whatever. I won't worry about it. I wanted to add like a background to the chat box just to make it easier to see, but I think it's okay. Anyway, okay. So, what I want to show you, I'll go ahead and hit play. So, a couple things to note. First thing is that there aren't any commands that show up because I deleted the file that contained all of that information. But all like the code and the logic and stuff is still there. I would just have to like, add the commands back, which isn't a big deal. And actually, if I scripts, can I like open with VS Code? Okay, yeah, it's gonna be weird. Hang on. Open folder, scripts. There we go. Okay. Get rid of those because those don't exist anymore. Okay, sorry. So like the script code still exists. I just don't have the file that's supposed to tell Stonebot that the scripts exist. So that's one thing. But all the logic and stuff is still there. So the main thing that I wanted to point out is there used to be two buttons here, one for the chatter and one for the broadcaster. The broadcaster button is no longer needed because what I was using it for was, so this is like your authorization, your login, log out button, which I need to fix the UI because it's not super clear that this is a login, log out button, but we'll get to that later. The point of removing the broadcaster button, though, is that I was using it so that I could get information of the user that sent the chat message. So, like, whether or not they were a VIP or a moderator or, whatever. But because I'm now looking at the badges to get that information, I don't need to make an API call for it, which means I don't need the authorization to make that API call, which means I don't need that button anymore. So now all you have to do to get everything set up, or to get the authorization set up, is just authorize the bot account. You don't have to like log into the broadcaster account as well. But obviously I need some way of figuring out what broadcaster to connect to, so I've moved that over into the config file here, and you can just manually type in the username. I'll hit save, and then if I connect, it works. And I'm actually curious, can you like see users in chat? I'm not going to show this, but if I have that open, I wonder if Stonebot is going to show up in this list. I'm kind of curious. They don't, it doesn't look like they show up. Okay, never mind. But it should be connected. And so like if somebody types in a chat message, it should pop up here as a debug message. Just as a test, I'll type test. You can see it pops up here. Does this mean you can send Stonebot over to someone else's stream? You can. What it's going to do is it's going to act basically like command prompt. Yo, what's up, Glortax and Enemy? How's it going? Why you got to stream when I decide to be productive? Because this is my time to be productive. This is, I'm working on coding and stuff. This is productive time. I'm sorry. I promise I don't try and do this. But yeah, like Stonebot will act like any other user. So it's not like it has any special permissions. It can't moderate your chat. It can't do anything fancy. All it does is read and write messages the same as any other normal user would be able to do. But yeah, in theory, you could type anybody's username in here and connect it to their chat. Now, obviously, if you do this maliciously, and you set up some, spam, have it spam chat messages and stuff, then the broadcaster or their moderators are likely to ban whatever account you're using to chat. But that's a user problem. But yeah, you could in theory type in whatever name you want here. No, we're getting ads already. Okay, that's fine. I don't think ads have started. Let me know when ads start and when they end, because I want to be able to explain this properly. But I can just disconnect that. So one of the things that I want to adjust possibly in this stream is to, like, this is all happening synchronously, right? The connect and disconnect and some of the authorization stuff is happening synchronously. So if I click the button, I can't do anything in the UI until it finishes connecting. And there's a default timeout of 10 seconds. So basically every network call has a timeout of 10 seconds. So depending on how complex it is, like for the connect button, I believe there's like 2 network calls, 2 or 3 potentially. So like at most this could take 30 seconds. Which is obviously not great. Usually you want your UI to be asynchronous so that, users can still hover over buttons and have animations play and everything. You want it to be effectively multi-threaded, if not actually multi-threaded, then concurrent. So that's something that I want to adjust, but I think there's a little bit of shenanigans that we have to do in order to get it to work properly. But like same with disconnecting, it'll basically freeze the UI in order for it to disconnect. It does that with some other stuff. So for example, my face is covering it, but in the top right corner, there's a save button. If I make a change to, like, say, I don't know, the broadcaster username, in which I have to, okay, I'm getting a message that ads have started. So let me know when they end. And then I'll finish what I was saying. Whoops. Okay, let me pull up the connect button here. Okay. All right. I am being told ads are over by Twitch. So if that's wrong, blame Twitch. Ads are over. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So the other example of this is if I, for example, if I'm already connected, right? So I'm currently connected, and then should it switch to pre-roll ads? It's feeling quite annoying with mid-rolls constantly in these multi-hour streams. I can do that. I can also set it. Let me see. Ads. Excuse me. Can I? Sorry, I'm looking at some of this stuff. Okay. So I believe I set it up now so that you'll get a 30-second ad every hour. And that will partially disable pre-roll ads, but not all the time. But that should be a little bit better. Pre-roll is when you get an ad when you first join, right? Because I've been getting those regardless. That's because you joined before the first mid-roll. Yeah. Yeah, so like a mid-roll ad has to play, and then after it's done, it'll give me, I think, like, before I had it be like, I don't know, some amount of time. So like, yeah, you can see for the next 17 minutes, pre-rolls are off. Pre-roll ads are off. And I don't remember exactly the math behind it, but like the more mid-roll ads you play, the longer there are not pre-roll ads. Actually, let me take a look at the settings again. Can I? Yeah, there's. So you either have to have pre-roll ads on all the time, or you have to have mid-roll ads that will then cause pre-rolls to be disabled at a certain rate. Yeah, whatever. But I turned off mid-roll ads as far as I could. I think purely pre-roll ads might be best. I mean, it depends. Like, in general, if your goal is to like become a successful streamer, you should not have pre-roll ads turned on, because then it raises the barrier to entry. So like, if you already have a pretty well established community, then it makes sense to turn it off. But like, in general, it's not usually advised. One day I'll be able to catch a stream without having to leave immediately after. I need to head off now. Good luck working on Stonebot. Thank you, Enmy. I appreciate you stopping by. And thank you for the hydrate. I filled my water all the way this time. But like, previously I had the settings set up so that it showed the fewest amount of mid-roll ads to guarantee that no pre-roll ads showed. At least, you know, except for the very beginning of the stream. But, you know, whatever. The thing is, we aren't random people who would click off due to ads. We're all going to watch anyway. Might as well make it less annoying. Sure, again, it's like, okay, if you already have an established community, then it makes sense. But if you're still trying to grow, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Which, like, you know, 3-4-ish average streamer or average viewers per stream, I would not consider to be like an established community. I shouldn't phrase it like that. That is an established community. It's just not. You're still in the growing phase. I would say. Which to me is justification to not have pre-roll ads. But, you know, it's not like we're getting a whole lot of new viewers anyway, so it's all subjective. Plus, like, you know, in today's day and age, if you don't have an ad blocker, then like, what are you doing? Anyway, what I was trying to explain earlier is that if I'm already connected and I go into the settings and I change the broadcaster's username, in the, like, when I click the save button that's in the top right, I'm covering it right now, but if I change the username, let's just, make it blank, and then I click the save button, it will automatically disconnect, right? You don't want to be connected to, a new person. You just want to cut that connection. And that's going to happen synchronously. So if I hit the save button, which I'm going to do now, you can see it took a second or two before it actually went through, because it took a little bit for the bot to disconnect. And ideally, I'd like that to be asynchronous so that you can just click the save button, come back to this screen, do whatever you need to do. And I've got everything set up in order to do that, save for, one logical component of it. But you can kind of see what's going on here is that this is the button itself, the connect button. So I've got, some variable called state, and it can be in these different configurations, right? You could be connected, you could be disconnected, you could be connecting, or you could be disconnecting. And so if the new state that you're trying to, set the button to, this is, so it's checking the previous state to see if, are you connected? If so, then, say that you're disconnecting. Or no, this is no. This is the new state. Sorry, I misspoke. This is the new state. So if the new state that you're trying to set the connect button to is connected, then it will display the word disconnect. If it's disconnected, then it will display the word connect, etc., etc. And you can see these two at the bottom. So if I'm in the process of connecting, then it should have this connecting ... displayed. And if I'm in the process of disconnecting, it should have this disconnecting ... displayed. But because everything is happening synchronously, if I click the connect button, it just freezes. Oh, and I need to put my name back in here. If I connect, it just freezes, and then it says disconnect immediately. So it never has the connecting ... because it basically happens instantly, right? The UI thread has to wait for everything, for it to actually connect before it actually makes updates. So that's one thing that I want to change. And I feel like it's a good idea to just do that now. Am I getting any errors or anything? No. Now, if I close, it should automatically disconnect. That was rather fast. I'm not entirely sure that it's actually working. I won't worry about it for now. Twitch will figure out that I'm not connected anymore. Okay, so when I click, I can try and disconnect or I can try and connect. So you can see in this function, try connect. At this point, I set the state to connecting. And then I check to see if the broadcaster ID is good to go. And I think I actually want to change this because these are all properties. Which means that you can like access them as if they're variables, but really they just redirect you to a function. And I feel like I don't want that to be the case. I feel like I want to make it explicit that you're accessing a function. Clear, yeah. Let's pop this down here. can just make all of these public. So now in order to access that information, we have to call a function, which has basically the exact same functionality. It just makes a little bit more sense because we're explicitly calling a function. Okay, so this should be like get access token. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that looks good. And now we're probably gonna have some errors now that I changed all that. So what's my error list look like? So we can say get chatter ID. Get authorized client. Get authorized client. Get authorized client. Sure, completed for me. Thank you. Get broadcaster ID. Get chatter ID. Get authorized client. Get broadcaster ID. And so like you can kind of see the effect that it's having here. Let me know if I should zoom in more or not. But so like the old way that I was doing this is just, you know, cache.chatter ID, and that's how you got the value of the chatter's ID. But because this was like tied to a function, it would actually like, it could potentially run code when you try and access it, which doesn't immediately make sense if you're just like, you know, because this syntax kind of makes it look like you're just accessing a variable. But if you have a function call, then it makes it a little bit more clear that, okay, this could be running other code in order to get you the value that you're looking for. So that's my goal here. That's what I was trying to do. Okay. That's weird that it didn't automatically save that stuff. Okay. So let me close out of this stuff. Go back into the cache here. Can get rid of that. Okay, so for the connect button. So we try to connect. We check to see if we're authorized. And then we check to see if the username is empty or not. And if that's good to go, then we'll say that we're in the process of connecting. And then we try and fetch the broadcaster ID. So at this point, you know, we should start executing on a new thread, right? We've updated the state because this function could potentially make a network call. So you can see this question equals just means, hey, if broadcaster ID is null, then reassign it to whatever this is. So it makes another function call, and this is gonna hit Twitch's API to get some user information. And so going back to our original if statement here, this could potentially run network code, or like run, not code, but like this could hit the network potentially, which could take a long time. And so that's why we want to execute it on a different thread. And if we do this, this would have to be on UI thread. This would also have to be on UI thread. And then this should happen. We need to always change the state on the UI thread. So this is where we actually try and connect. So the problem that I need to solve now is that when we click the connect button, you know, it'll check all of this stuff, it'll check this. If it gets to the point where it actually is ready to connect, it'll start that process. And like I said, it's got like 2 or 3 network calls. So it could potentially, you know, assuming that we have a slow internet connection, this could take up to 30 seconds at most. Just like worst case scenario. So what happens if we're in the middle of trying to connect and then the user let me just show that visually. So what if I click the connect button, we're in the process of connecting, and then the user decides to log out, right? They clear their authorization. They hit the OK button. Then it would normally, so if I hit the connect button, we're connected. And then if I do this, yeah, it's fine. I can log in again. And I can show you how that works as well. But so if I do this, it'll automatically log me out. Actually, it looks like Twitch says ads are playing, so I'll wait. It should have updated my ad preferences, so I don't know why it's doing that, but hopefully it should just be 30 seconds. I changed it to be where was it? Yeah, so it should be running a 30-second ad every hour. But it doesn't seem to update that. Only person hears me and I have ad block. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So we're currently connected. If I clear the authorization, it should disconnect me. So I hit the OK button. You can see it automatically disconnects me. But if I had just clicked the connect button and it's still in the process of connecting, and then I click and log out. Okay, so there you go. That's how you authorize. So you just go to this, the URL, you do what you need to do. Give me a second. Okay. So now I can click done and then it goes back. All right. So if I click the connect button and then I quickly, clear the authorization, it's going to attempt to disconnect me. But obviously we're not connected yet. So that attempt to disconnect would fail. but because it's, you know, it's all happening on different threads, the connect attempt would still continue. So we have to have some way of canceling the attempt to connect. And I think we don't have to have it the other way around. Yeah, because there's nothing that would force us to connect. So we wouldn't have to ever cancel the disconnect process. We would only ever have to cancel the connect process. So let me close out of this. So we're executing on a new thread. If we determine that the broadcaster ID is not good, then not only do we have to disconnect, but we would have to... No. So this is fine, I think. This is fine. It's the authorize button. So if we were to click the authorize button... Yeah. And we try and clear auth data. Here we go. So we can see it shows a pop-up. If the pop-up is canceled, then we just, you know, we're still authorized. If the pop-up, if we hit the OK button on the pop-up, then it's going to try and clear the authorization data, which in this function tries to close the WebSocket. But what we would need to do here is also say cancel connect, cancel WebSocket connect attempt. So, you know, we would maybe we could have some function in the WebSocket client that could be like, you know, dot cancel connect attempt, something like this, just to make it easy. And then that way the WebSocket client is responsible for everything. Where else is this used? I feel like there was one other place in the configuration panel when I click save and I'm trying to update the username. Okay, I went over that option. When I try and disconnect, yep. And then just in the cache, okay. So then, yeah, I'll just pull the classic strategy of calling a function that does not exist yet. We'll just pretend that it does exist. And then we would also have to put it here. Maybe we can call it like try cancel connect attempt, because it's there's not guaranteed to be a cancel attempt or connect attempt. I don't know. We can mess with the naming, but I think that'll be good. And then in the WebSocket client here, let's make a new cancellation token source, and we'll call it connect cancellation. Let's make, so we've got the connect function, we've got the close function. Let's make the try cancel connect attempt. And in theory, all that should do is it should cancel this cancellation token source. And we can say if that's null, then do it. Yeah, sure. Make it all one line for me. Thank you. Okay. So now we need to say, so this just gets the URL connect to see what this does. Connect socket to, given the socket and the URL. So here's where we actually attempt to do the connect. So here's our default cancellation token, which is just the 10-second timeout thing that I said. I mentioned before. So we should I mean, this is gonna so if we're in the middle of trying to connect and we cancel, if we cancel a cancellation token, it's going to throw an exception. So I think we have to throw this into a try catch block. No, but the only reason we do it here is so that we can rethrow it. Yeah, so we would have to be kind of careful. I mean, we do have this in a, oh wait, this, yeah, we do already have this in a try catch. So that, yeah, that would work. That would be fine. I think I'm overthinking this. It should be okay. So let me scroll up because I know there's a way to combine cancellation tokens. Oh, maybe it was lower here. Yeah, here we go. What? Don't do that. Did not mean to drag that. Close it. Okay. So here, we're combining cancellation tokens. So let me just copy that and see if I can connect to here. So this is where we actually like use the cancellation token. Okay, so cancellation token source. No, we just want this cancellation token. And then we want the connect cancellation token. Okay, and then at this point, we can actually just assume that it's not null. But then, of course, when we first attempt the connect, we should set it to something that is connect cancellation token dot. We should assign it to a new thing here. There we go. I'm pretty sure we can just say new. It should already know what type it is. Yeah, okay. So we're setting it to something not null when we attempt to connect. Actually, it would be better to put it in the connect to function. No, maybe connect socket. Yeah, let's just put it in here. So we can guarantee that it's... Is it still gonna get mad at me? No, okay, it understands that I'm setting it to a new value. So I'm assigning this connect cancellation token source to something new, and then I'm combining it with the default cancellation token, which is just the 10-second timeout. So you can either... So it will either cancel automatically after 10 seconds, or you can manually cancel it through this connect cancellation token source. And then we can grab this guy and throw that into this function. Dot token. Okay. So now the socket will attempt to connect, and if we cancel either of the two tokens that are now linked, then this will fail. And it'll throw an exception, and then we can handle the exception. Okay. So then this guy, get request. Cancellation token. Where is this used? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So then we'll just do basically exactly the same thing here. So we'll link the default token. No. Okay, we'll just reassign it. We'll reuse this thing. Why not? Actually, there's a good reason why not to do that. Hang on. Link cancellation token source. This is the welcome linked cancellation token source. Token. Okay. Yeah, so it combines... Oh, why did I name it request cancellation token? Name it welcome cancellation token. So then we combine this with our connect cancellation token source, and then we throw that into the get request. So that should cancel it either again. So this first one was just to connect the WebSocket. This second one is because when we establish the WebSocket connection, Twitch will send a quote-unquote welcome message, which is basically just like a little bit of data that's like, hey, the connection is good. You're all set up. And so that's why we need two of these things here, because we're making one network request to connect the WebSocket, and then there's this other one to receive the welcome message. And so we have to make sure that we can manually cancel both of those, and they also have to automatically cancel after 10 seconds, just in case. We don't want it to be sitting there doing nothing, right? Okay, and if that fails for any reason, so if retrieving the welcome message fails, yeah, if retrieving the welcome message fails for any reason, oh, that gets a bit tricky, doesn't it? Because if we try and manually cancel the connect request while it's attempting to receive the welcome message, then we would also have to close the WebSocket connection. Is that acceptable? I think so. Just trying to think. I think that makes sense. So like if we're in here, so we're in here, we're trying to receive the welcome message. And the user logs out, quote unquote, logs out. We want to not receive the welcome message, and we want to disconnect the WebSocket. I think that makes sense. And of course, if we manually cancel the connect cancellation token source, it's going to throw an exception, so it's going to go into here. Maybe slight cleanup is that we could say isn't there operation canceled exception? There we go. So if the operation gets canceled, let's check to see if it was the connect that got canceled. So basically, if we manually triggered, if we're manually trying to cancel the connect request, then, I mean, we'll do basically the same thing, except it's not an internal server error, it's just it's a normal closure. Just say manually canceled. Is that how you spell canceled? Is there 2 L's? I think it's 1. Oh, they can be spelled both ways. Oh, okay. I guess the 2 L's is the British version. Okay. So it doesn't matter. Okay. So yeah, we manually canceled. So the only reason this would be false is if the timeout happened. So if 10 seconds passed, then we automatically cancel. So if that's the case, I mean, I still want to close the WebSocket. Yeah, so I think this is fine. So here we try and receive the welcome message. If for some reason that operation gets canceled, it'll check to see if the cancellation was manually triggered. And if so, then it'll close the WebSocket with normal closure, and it'll just say that it was manually canceled. Otherwise, if it was automatically canceled by the 10-second timeout, it'll rethrow the exception, which should then get caught by this other catch here. And then it'll close the socket, this time saying that there is an internal server error. Which, I don't know, maybe that's accurate, maybe that's not. I don't think it matters a whole lot. To be honest, I could have just, not had any of this part, but I feel like it's slightly more accurate to do it this way. Plus, that way, when I'm just looking through the code, I can see, okay, so there is this section where, this code gets run if I manually close it. And I'm pretty sure this throw will be caught by this block. Can I open up like a test thing here? I just want to see. What? Bro. Oh, you know what? They do use the double L. Cancellation. Now I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so cancellation cancellation has two L's, but canceled can have one or two. That's so weird. Okay, whatever. Okay, so we'll have a function here. We'll just say task.run. Whoops. It's just gonna sleep for 10 seconds, and then we'll give it the cancellation token. No, I don't think this is right? How do I want to set this up? I'm trying to see if the second catch of a try catch block actually does what I want it to. So like, if I have a try catch operation canceled exception, canceled catch any exception. This doesn't need to be in quotes. I don't know why it does that. Right? So it should catch the operation canceled exception. You know what? I'm overcomplicating this. I can just make my own exception, right? My exception extends exception, and then why is it getting mad? Hello? Because I put the class up here? What if I put it down here? Bruh. Whatever. So I can catch a my exception here. My exception. Okay. So what I'm expecting to happen is for both this for both this and this to write a message to the console. What do you mean exception unhandled? That's what the catch block is for. Or does that throw not work the way that I think it will? Yeah, it printed my exception. Okay. And then I guess this catch block does not actually figure that out. Because if I do this now, yeah, it just prints my exception and then nothing else. Okay, glad I tested that. So then back here, so basically if we manually cancel it, it'll close the WebSocket, but if we don't manually cancel it, it's gonna throw without closing the WebSocket, which is not what we want to happen. Maybe what we should do is just in here we can say if E is operation canceled exception and connect cancel token source is cancellation requested. So this is this should be effectively the same thing as this if, right? So then we can just grab the contents of here, paste it in there, get rid of that guy. What is this? Fish moly? The fish has been fed one time. Dude, what is that? That's not a blobfish, is it? I feel like blobfishes look different. Maybe it is. Okay, so this is gonna be weird. I don't know the right way to do this, but we'll just do it this way. Is manually canceled. It's gonna equal this Boolean value. And then we can just say over here, so if we manually canceled, then this is going to be a normal closure. Otherwise, it's an internal server error. And then here, if we manually canceled, then we can just say manual cancel. So if we manually cancel it, then it's a normal closure and we can just send this message. Otherwise, we'll consider it an internal server error and we'll send the error message. Okay. A little bit weird. I probably don't even need to worry about this, to be honest, but, you know, whatever. Blobfishes are more pink than brown. Yeah, that's what I thought. It does look weird, though. I can't really tell, because it looks like the shape of a blobfish. Almost. I have no idea what that is. Okay, so that should be fine. So we'll try this. So no matter what happens, if we, well, this is gonna rethrow the error, right? So if this happens, hang on, more testing is required. So if we have a finally block here, okay. So we catch the exception, we do what we want, and then we rethrow it. Let's just, for the sake of example, let's throw this whole thing into another try catch, and we don't really care what happens afterwards. Okay, what happens now? Unhandled exception. Exception of type my exception was thrown. Huh? Do I have to put a... Do I have to do this? Can I not have finally there? Okay, that worked. Okay, it was just being weird. Okay, but the end is now does print out. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Which means we can say finally connect cancellation token source, and we can just reset it to null. So we first assign it a new value, we do all of our connecting, and then when we're finally done doing all of our connecting, we can undo it here. Unless, yeah, because we also need to subscribe to channel chat message. Okay. See, it gets complicated because the way that Twitch's reconnect logic works is confusing. So I'm just trying to figure out whether or not there would be a collision if Twitch requests that you reconnect. And then during that reconnection process, if the user tries to disconnect, is that gonna throw things off? Because I feel like I don't know. There's a lot of different stuff going on here. So like this in theory should work, right? It's just that I don't think I can put this here. I think this would need to be up here. Yeah, because if we're reconnecting, which just how it happens automatically. We don't really care. I'm back. Welcome back. Thank you for the hydrate. I appreciate it. Let me turn down my my light here. Okay. So if it's in the middle of reconnecting and the user requests a disconnect, I guess they're just going to have to wait until it fully reconnects and then we can trigger the disconnect. That part should be okay. I think, yeah. I think that's okay. Don't need this. Which would mean that we need to set this to a new thing up here. And then it's going to get mad because it doesn't know that it's not null, but we can tell it, hey, it is not null. Okay. So then this whole connect cancellation token source shenanigans only happens when you manually trigger a connection and not when a reconnect triggers a connection. Which should be fine. Can't wait to make a fishing mini game in Stonebot. That'd actually be kind of cool. I don't know how it would work, but that would be fun. And I feel like we're close. So we've got commands mostly working. For just like regular messages, it shouldn't be too difficult because we should be able to just like copy and paste a lot of this stuff. And then we've got timers, so like the you know how Stonebot used to say a random quote every so often. We can get that set up, which again shouldn't be too difficult. But I feel like we're close. I feel like a lot of the core logic is done. It's just these weird edge cases that I feel like I have to cover just in case. Because if Stonebot crashes, that's not going to look good, right? And I feel like I feel like it's still possible for it to happen. I just haven't thought of every edge case. And of course, I don't think I'm ever going to think of every edge case until, like, you know, I don't know how to phrase it, but like, if enough people start using Stonebot, then, you know, one of them is bound to encounter a way to crash it, you know? Okay, so this is an event sub. Okay, this is a little bit weird, but like cancellation token. I mean, it's only used in one place, so I guess we can pass a cancellation token here. And then let's go into here. We can say cancellation token, but we'll make it nullable. And then let's make this a function body so we have some room to work. That's what patches are for? Yeah. But you know, if I could get it right on the first try, that'd be great. Testing in prod. Exactly. Okay, so send post request. Yeah, see, this is where it gets a little bit messy. Cancellation token. No. What the heck? Oh, I did that just now. Okay, whoops. Cancellation token. We can go here and post and say cancellation token, cancellation token. Okay. Yada yada. Okay. Let me just make sure I didn't break anything else. Should be fine. Yeah, we'll just pass that in. Okay, that can go back to expression. Okay, that should be fine. Okay, so now I want to do the token combination thing here, so that I can combine the connect cancellation token source with the default cancellation token source. So let me grab the code that I'm using here. Go into this guy and say linked cancellation token source. We're going to combine the default cancellation token. Yeah, we'll call this default cancellation token. There we go. Just consider yourself the next Bethesda, and no matter how many bugs, it still quote unquote works. Yeah, except, you know, I actually value a reputation. So, okay, anyway, let's throw this into here. Cancel it. What? Oh, I have to have the cancellation token source? Oh. Hang on. I'm gonna call it thing because I don't know. Okay, cancellation token. If that's equal to null, just use the default. Otherwise, combine. This is going to be the longest one-liner you've ever seen. What do you mean? Huh? Type of conditional expression cannot be determined because there's no implicit conversion between cancellation token and cancellation token source. Dot token. There we go. Now everybody's happy. Linked token. Okay. So basically what this does is it says, okay, is the cancellation token that you passed in as a parameter, is that empty? If so, use the default cancellation token source. Otherwise, combine the cancellation token that you received as input and the default. So this one giant line of code basically says, okay, either use the default, or if the user wants to, use the one that they provide combined with the default one. Which will allow me to pass in the token here. There we go. What are you talking about? But this has a great reputation. Right, yeah, that's why we're talking about them right now, because of their fantastic reputation that we all know and love, right? Right? Okay. So now we want to do a similar thing here. I feel like exception, where we just see, we check if E is an operation canceled exception, and connect cancellation token source got canceled. So, because if that's the case, oh, actually, I'll do it this way again. Is manually canceled is equal to this guy. I feel like there should be a cleaner way of doing this, but hey, I'm live streaming. I don't got time to think about how to do things correctly. Okay, so is manually canceled. If that's true, then it's just a normal closure. Otherwise, it's an internal server error. Okay, here, if we manually canceled, then we can say, what was the message? Manual cancel requested. Otherwise, there we go. Okay. You know what, let's do something similar here. We'll give it a little bit more context. So we'll say error. How did I phrase it? Error while subscribing to event. Error while receiving welcome message. Okay. There has to be a cleaner way to do this. It looks terrible. It hurts my eyes to look at. It really does, but whatever. Okay. So now, what have we just accomplished? We should in theory, be able to manually cancel a connect request. So if I execute on a new thread, let's put all of this code into here. So this will run on a new thread now. I don't care about the return values, so I'll just do this. Okay, and then yeah, I'll make a new function here for it. Private void set state on UI thread. We'll take in a new connect state, and that'll just do this. Except, and then instead of this, we'll say new state. Then we can actually just replace this with set state on UI thread. Disconnected. Okay. Set state on UI thread. Okay, we want to set it to disconnected. What just, oh, I need an open parentheses, okay. And then here, I want to set it to disconnected. Let's actually do that first and then log. Yeah, that's fine. If we update the UI first and then log the error. I don't know. What do you think? Should we, if an error happens, should we log it and then update the UI, or should we update the UI and then log the error? I feel like maybe we should log the error first. That's probably a good idea. I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like if something goes wrong, we should attempt to make a note of it immediately. And then we can just tell the user later, right? I mean, like, in theory, this is all going to happen basically instantly anyway. So it's, you know, it's not that big of a deal, but... Okay. And then I'm already calling, so like in the authorize button, clear auth data. Yeah, so this should already try and cancel, which is just that, which is fine. Okay. What do you guys think? I think bacon sounds tasty. I'm gonna go eat some now. That does sound tasty. I hope you enjoy. Oh, by the way, fantastic suggestion with the grilled cheese. I made grilled cheese for, I'm pretty sure, the first time in my life. And I definitely slightly burnt the bread, but it was good. My kitchen smelled like burnt bread for a while, but I liked the grilled cheese. Because I feel like normally you put butter on it, right? But I just threw the whole sandwich in there. Okay. I'm trying to think if I got everything. doing what I wanted to do. So let's give it a test. Let's see what happens. Let's close out of that one because I don't need it. Okay. I'm going to throw this on my other monitor here. Okay, so if I connect, it says connecting, and then it updates to disconnect. That works properly. And then if I do this, okay, that's fine. We don't have the disconnection process parallelized, but you can see that now when I click it, it doesn't freeze, right? I can still like interact with this button. I'll try it again. I can still like hover over the button and stuff. So now I want to stress test it. And I want to say, yeah, that's fine. Okay. What do I want to do? I want to, in here, let's actually have that be like the very first thing that happens. Okay. So let's just, you know, simulate a really long connection. So connect socket to, okay, so let's just say, for the sake of example, that it takes a really long time to receive the welcome message. So let's say thread.sleep for 10 seconds, right? So theoretically, we should click the connect button and it should take approximately 10 to 12 seconds. Okay, looks like it's doing that. I don't see any errors. Okay, now, oh. Bad request. Was Twitch expecting it to happen like instantly and that's what's going wrong? Yeah, this is right. Maybe I can't just sleep for 10 seconds here. This is kind of hard to simulate actually. Maybe if I just like I actually don't know how to simulate a slow connection without just actually slowing down my connection. Welp, end of stream. See ya. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure Twitch like expects you to receive the welcome message basically as soon as you establish the WebSocket connection. Excuse me. So it could be the case that I'm taking too long to receive the welcome message, and so it's getting upset at me. I mean, like, what if I put the sleep here? Let's see what happens. That should be fine, right? If I try connecting, it should take 10 seconds. A task was canceled, okay. Wait, why was it canceled? Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. Let's not make it 10 seconds. Let's make it 5 seconds. How's about? Do 5 seconds, okay. Try and connect. Okay. So it fully connected. It just took a long time, right? That is us, quote unquote, simulating a slow connection. Okay. We're on to something. Still no errors? Okay. Okay. So now, I don't know why I closed the program because I can just keep testing it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click the connect button. Then I will switch into the config page. I will remove my name and then click the save button. And what I'm hoping will happen is that this will stop connecting. And I will get no errors in the console. That's the plan. I've got 5 seconds to do it, which should be plenty of time. Here we go. So it's connecting. I clear that out, hit save. It still says connecting. It stopped the connection process. Dang it. Okay. So where did this happen? A task was canceled. So it should have gotten to this point, realized that the token got canceled, and it should have thrown. Like, as soon as it tries to execute this line, it should have thrown an error. Connect socket 2, so that error would have propagated to here, which would have propagated to whatever called the connect function, which should have gone here, which should have caught it, logged it, and then set the state to disconnected. Okay. So we need to check to see if, I can close out of this. We need to check to see if the error that we caught here is the manual cancellation. So if E is operation canceled exception, oh, we don't have access to the cancellation token. That's a little bit annoying. I mean, do I just... Problem is, like, we can't just check this, right? We would have to check and see if it's both an operation canceled exception and if the exception was thrown as a result of somebody manually, or of the user manually requesting it. but because I put the cancellation token inside WebSocket client, I can't access it from here. Which, you know, I could just make the variable public. I guess that would work. Or we could say something like connect attempt canceled, something like that. Is connect attempt manually canceled? And then we can just say connect cancellation token source is cancellation requested. So if it's null, then just, you know, return false, because, well, no, that doesn't work because we immediately assign it null after. I mean, I do want to catch exceptions. If something weird or wacky happens while I try and connect, I want to catch an exception. But if the exception that's thrown is thrown as a result of... I mean, I could just do it in here, right? Yeah. Connect socket 2. Yeah, what am I doing? Okay. Okay, alright, I get it. So if a cancellation is manually requested, that's not an error. I don't need to throw an exception because that's normal behavior. That's not something that I need to warn anybody about. So if this occurs, I still need to close the WebSocket, but I don't need to rethrow the error. So let me try and clean this up a bit. So we don't need to check this. We know it's normal closure. We can just do this. Okay. So close cancellation token. It's getting mad at me because I use it out here as well. So if we manually request that the connect attempt gets canceled, we close the WebSocket, and then we just return. Never mind. Maybe we don't do that. Maybe we return... Maybe we throw this into a try catch. Yeah. Let's do that. Okay, so we catch an exception. At this point, we don't care whether or not it's manual. The word return is very weird because you aren't returning. True. It's very conceptual. You are returning in the sense that you are giving execution back to the caller. Okay. So if we encounter an exception here, we'll close the WebSocket. It's fine if we mislabel it as an internal server error. Don't care. We'll just consider it that. And then we'll rethrow it. Connect socket to... Oh no, because this is used by the reconnect. Ah, shoot. Is this used anywhere? Yeah, it's used in 2 places. Okay, I'm gonna make a function for this because it's getting kind of weird. Static cancellation token. Get connect. Oh, get linked connect cancellation token. And that'll be if connect cancellation token source is null, then just do task helper dot the default, otherwise do the linked version. You know what? I'm gonna make this a little bit easier to read. Default cancellation token equals the default cancellation token, and then we can just say if if the connect cancellation token is null, then we can just return the default cancellation token. Otherwise, we're gonna try and link the default cancellation token with the connect cancellation token, and we can just return that token. Okay. If can be simplified. I did it that intentionally. Whatever. Okay, yeah. So then I can say here, get linked connect cancellation token. Okay, there we go. So now I don't have to worry about this. Okay. So it's going to automatically figure out whether or not to use the default cancellation token or combine the default cancellation token with the connect cancellation token. So then we want to do the same thing here, where we say get linked connect cancellation token. Okay. Whoops, don't do that. I wanted to grab the scroll bar. Okay. Okay. So we're doing everything we need to do there. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. So then I want to do a similar thing. Yeah, okay. So this is catch exception E. Okay. So if sorry. Okay. Should be okay. Let me know if my audio sounds screwed up now. That was weird. Okay, so what we're doing now is this connect socket to. If we manually cancel the connect attempt, it will throw an error in from this function, which will propagate up to this one, which will propagate up to this one. And we'll catch it. Except we want to only catch the operation canceled exception. And we want to say if the connect cancellation token source was what caused the cancel. Then we can just return. Otherwise, we want to throw the error. And I think we want a similar situation here. So we'll catch any error that happens. Actually, before we return, we want to set this to null. Okay. And then here, I'll just... Yeah, give me every exception. And then we'll grab this. And we'll throw this into an if. Okay, so if it was an operation canceled exception and the manual connection cancellation token was triggered, then we want to do the same thing. We just want to set it to null and then we want to return. No, in this case, we do want to close it. Yeah. So we do want to close. It's just a matter of whether or not we want to throw it. So like this can all stay the same. Let's just make it simple. We'll say that there was an error. It'll be fine. Okay, and then can grab this. Say if. Okay, so after we've closed it, if we realize that it was a manual thing, then we can just set it to null and return. And now I'm kind of curious if this return is going to bypass the finally. Let's see here. So if I do this, right? So we're going to throw an exception. It's going to write that exception, and then it should return. I want to see whether or not the finally block actually gets executed. It does. Okay. Interesting. So that means I don't actually have to do this. I can just say return, and then the finally block will execute no matter what. Okay. Actually, I should have the exact same thing here. I'm just now realizing I should do this. Then I don't need that. Okay. No. Hang on. This is fine. Right? We catch every exception. We close. If it's a manual, then we can just return, and this will get executed no matter what. Why does this have an issue? Because in one case it should return, but if that's not the case, it should throw. Either way, this is never going to get run. If this line throws an exception... Oh, if it doesn't throw an operation canceled exception. Oh, okay, I see. Let's do this then. Just catch any exception. And then we'll test the exact same conditions here. E. Okay. Yo, what's up, Dom? How's it going? Were you on vacation? I feel like I remember something about that. Coding streams are back. Yeah. I finally got the new authorization backend set up, so we can start doing stuff on stream. Okay, but so like we're either returning out of the function or we're throwing an error. Either way, I don't see why this would ever be null. So I'm just gonna tell the compiler that it's not null. Going good? Yeah, I'm in Mexico right now. Today's my birthday. Oh, nice. Happy birthday. So with family and stuff, I go back on the 3rd. Nice. What kind of stuff did you do to celebrate, or are you doing to celebrate? Wait, you're watching my stream to celebrate your birthday? Aw, I feel special now. Okay, that should work. Did I change anything over here? I did. Okay. We went to eat, and later we're going to Going with grandma to eat and cake. Nice. I saw the coding stream and came to say hi. You just can't get away from coding, huh? It's that much of an attraction. I appreciate it. I hope the food was nice. I hope the food you eat in the future will be nice. Exactly. Okay, why did my connect attempt fail? Right, because I need to put my name back in here. Whoops, that's not my name. Now connect. Close out of that one. Okay. Oh, what do you mean object reference not set to an... what? Oh, I'm stupid. Hang on. Why do I try to make things more complicated than they need to be? Okay, this warning was actually correct. I should have listened to it. It's just this. Whoop, don't do that. Okay. Coding is life. Exactly. So I feel like this project is one of the side projects that I've gotten the furthest with. You know, like you start a side project and then, you know, eventually you run out of steam or something, or you get distracted by something else that's new and shiny and you just forget to come back. I feel like this project is one that I've gotten the farthest with. And it's gotten to the point where, like, if I'm not working on it, I'm thinking about ways, you know, different things that I could add to it, or like different ways that I could make it better. And I feel like that's super motivating. So I'm pretty happy. Like, there is sort of a voice in the back of my mind that's like, oh my god, there could be 500 million bugs in it and you've got to work all of them out. You know, you should scan your entire code base 500 times just to make sure. And then there's the other side of me that's just like just throw new features at it. Like a machine gun, just bury it in new features. Make it the coolest thing ever. It's perfectly fine. Don't worry about the bugs. All right, let me connect here. Hopefully we don't get an error. Same here. The bot is the longest project. All of them lasted for like 2 months. This has been going for 2 years now. Nice. Okay, no errors. We're connected. We did not get any errors. On December, I'm going to start the income part of it. Oh, is that for like the paid tiers? It works. We are connected. We're getting debug messages. Okay, so let's disconnect here. Yeah, the paid tiers, nice. I forget. I did look on your website at some point, but I forgot what the paid tiers get you. Like additional features and stuff. Okay. So I'm gonna test this again. I have it set up so that when I click the connect button, it'll wait 5 seconds. It'll just sit there and do nothing for 5 seconds. So what I'm gonna try and do is I'm gonna hit the connect button. I'm gonna go into the config page. I'm gonna erase my name. I'm gonna hit save. And what that should do is that should cancel the connection process. And not only should it do that, but it should not print anything here. Okay, let's see. Connect, go in here, erase my name, hit save. Yeah, okay, nope, it did not cancel the connection process. What happened? I didn't get any errors. Oh, it's because I didn't get any errors, right? If I go into the connect button, yeah. Since it didn't throw an error, technically this succeeded. Or it thinks that it succeeded. Excuse me. Let's let's hack it a little bit, shall we? There we go. And now we can say if this does not succeed, then disconnect. Disconnected. There we go. There we go. The site doesn't say yet, but usually it's more limits, more tokens for AI, and automation stuff like temp VIPs or mods. Interesting. Some extra functionality for redemptions, AI speak chat instead of the robotic one, and more stuff. Ooh. Dang, yeah, that sounds like a lot of stuff. Do you have all of that like already implemented and you're just like waiting to flip the switch? Cause that is a lot. That's pretty impressive. Okay. So we're gonna do the same thing again. I need to put my name back in here. Save. Okay, connect. Let's just test the regular connection process. Let's see. Okay, we are connected. I'm going to type test just to make sure. Okay, it does show up here. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, let's disconnect. Okay. And now we'll do the other process. I'm going to hit the connect button. I'm going to go into config. I'm going to erase my name, and then I'm going to hit save. Okay, connect. Here, erase my name, save. No, it still says it should be disconnected. Oh, I'm okay, I'm gonna make this thing work one line at a time. All right, it's gonna work. It's gonna work. Eventually, I'm gonna erase these comments. Okay, because what was happening was I was setting it to disconnected and then immediately setting it back to connected. I need to set it to disconnected and then stop everything. Just return. Quit. You're done. Okay. I didn't mean to move the window. There we go. Okay. Let me put my name back in here. We'll go through the full test here. Okay. Connect. Okay, we're connected. Let me test again. Okay, it's fine. We'll disconnect. All right, sweet. Go through the full process. All right, ready? Go. Connect. Erase my name. Save. Okay. Did we get an error? We did not get an error? Okay, if I just try and connect again. Oh, right, because my name's, yeah. I was worried. Hang on. Now. Oh, okay. Test again. Yes. Thank you, glitch. Okay, I think it works. God, that was annoying. But that should function for both when we hit the save button in the config panel right? When we click the save button, it checks to see if the broadcaster username has changed, and if it has, we attempt to close the WebSocket. Right, that's what this try cancel connect attempt, right? That's all we need in theory. And then it should happen also in the authorize button. Yeah, clear auth data. Clear auth data automatically tries to cancel any connection attempts, and it tries to close it if it's already connected. I think that works. How long did that take? 2 hours. What does the change look like here? Oh, okay, yeah, because I changed all this stuff to public. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I changed all the functions. Yeah, I changed all of that stuff to functions. I added the extra cancellation token option. Yeah, these are now functions. Those are now functions. Oh yeah, I did this off stream, but I just censored the client ID. Okay, and then I add this try cancel connect attempt. Change that to functions. Okay, I made this run in a new task. Yeah, changed some of the helper stuff. And then changed a bunch of how this works. Okay. That's not bad. Right? Right? That's not bad. I think that makes sense. I feel like those are good changes. So now we need to make the disconnection also asynchronous. Because if I'm connected... Oh, actually, hang on. You know what? Yeah, cancel that. Connect button. Try connect. Where did I put the sleep? Here we go. Okay, let's not sleep for 5 seconds because we don't really need to test that anymore. I do have everything except the AI voice and the AI moderations. I'm just implementing everything on the site for users to config. That's why I'm thinking by December to be finished and flip the switch for paid tiers. Gotcha. Still, all that other stuff, that seems pretty cool. How many users did you say you had? Like somewhere, I think it was somewhere between 30 and 50-ish. That'll be a hell of an update. Okay, so this is all running on a new thread now. And it's all encapsulated in try catches, so we should be fine. Now we need to try and disconnect, which we don't ever really want to interrupt the disconnection process. There is no way to do that. So in theory, it should be as simple as spinning up, or we're not actually spinning up a new thread. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but we're executing this on a new thread. And then we want to make sure that the UI updates on the UI thread. Okay. So let's see now. Okay, so I want to connect. There should not be a delay. So it should connect as soon as it can. It should switch the text to connecting ... and then disconnect. Connecting ... disconnect. Nice. Okay, now if I click it again, it should change to disconnecting ... and then connect. Yes. Yes. Easy. Nice. Okay. Yeah, that was way easier to do because we don't ever need to like cancel the disconnection process. 59 users, but I'm expecting like a 5%, like 5% to subscribe to paid tiers. Thinking of 5 USD a month, and also I'm adding a referral bonus that will give 10% for each user you invite that subscribe. Nice. Okay, so like 5% of the 59, that makes sense. But yeah, like with all those features, yeah, depending on how much you stream, I feel like that could definitely be worth it. I would be curious to check out the configuration process, because I know that sometimes when you have that, like, when you provide the user that much, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And if you don't ever get to see all the configurations until you've actually paid for the thing, you know, then it gets a little bit weird. But I don't know. It overall it does seem pretty cool. I could definitely see people wanting that. Okay. What was the other thing that I wanted to do? I'm surprised it took this long to get this to work. But I think I fully tested it, and I'm glad that I did. It's a one-click config for non-OBS stuff, and I'm trying to give 1 or 2 months for free trial. Oh, nice. Yeah, that'd be huge. Dude, this sounds like a phenomenal, like, high-quality product. I'm not gonna lie. That sounds actually really sick. And then that's fine. Okay, so the save button. The save button is also currently synchronous. So let me close out of this stuff. Authorize main panel, command card. Okay. So config panel. So this is what happens when you click the save button. Well, do I want the save button to execute asynchronously? I mean, yes. God, this is weird. Because I feel like so my dilemma here, let me show you. My dilemma here, and I'll move the window over so you can see it. So there's the config button here. When I hit the save button, it's going to potentially make network calls, and it also is potentially going to interact with the file system, which are both relatively slow operations. So the way that it currently works is the UI basically freezes because I'm doing everything on the UI thread. So basically the entire app freezes until it's done making the network calls and saving the files and whatever. So my dilemma is, do I keep it that way? Or do I make it so that you can click the save button? Something, maybe it switches back to the main panel here. And it just does all the network calls and the file system stuff in the background? Or do I actually want the user to not be able to do anything until all of those processes are done? Because technically, if I do it asynchronous, right, and I hit the save button and then it brings me back to this panel, technically everything is not saved yet. Right? It's still in the process of saving. So like if you hit the save button and then immediately try and like close the application, the save process could just be canceled. I don't know exactly how .NET handles that kind of stuff. Because then the other thing is that I could have it run in the background, but I could just, not let the user click either of these two buttons while it's in the process of saving. I don't know. I'm leaning towards just having the application basically freeze until it's done saving. Mostly because it's just a lot simpler that way. But also because, again, I'm concerned that, maybe you could hit the save button and then do something else to mess up the state of the application before it's actually done saving. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts? I'm trying to make it a business at this point. Nice. I got frustrated adding multiple bots for showing clips, alerts, extra commands, automations, and stuff. That's why I decided to make my own, and now people wanted to use it, so why not? But I'm thinking of 2 paid tiers, one of 5 USD and the other 12 with even more limits. That could be nice. I feel like I would be curious how you came up with the numbers. Not because I think they're wrong, but just because I'm curious about, that kind of stuff. Obviously, amazing idea with no drawbacks. Crash everything if you touch anything while connecting. Right. Yeah. I should definitely do that. I mean, this is supposed to be like the application configuration, right? Like this is supposed to... This is supposed to be the application configuration. So if something changes in the configuration, doesn't it make sense that the user would not be able to interact with the application until the configuration is like saved and loaded? I feel like that makes sense conceptually, but it also feels wrong to just have an unresponsive application until the configuration is saved. but also it's a configuration, so it makes sense that it would need to not let the user do anything until it's saved. You see my problem here? They sounded right to me, and I don't know, I don't want to change too much. I just want the money I get to make it run itself without my out of pocket. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know, yeah. That it completely slipped my mind that it's just like, oh yeah, whatever allows it to run on its own. I was trying to think of like complicated ways you would evaluate like how much this feature is worth. But it's like, well, whatever pays for the server, database, whatever resources you're using. That makes sense. And give the computer a memory leak, right? Yeah, just every time you hit the save button on the config page, it'll just, it'll reserve 1 GB of RAM, and then it won't ever give you back that gigabyte. It's not going to use it, but, it's reserved. I am going to make the decision to not mess with it. I think that having the save button execute synchronously on the UI thread is okay. Because I already have the stuff, wrapped in a try catch. So like there shouldn't be any reason for it to throw an exception or to crash or anything. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but for the AI tokens, after they use them all, I'm going to charge them by API cost if the user activates it. That makes sense. Okay, so the save button is going to block the UI thread until it's done. Now the question is, so I'm doing some work depending on if the username got changed, and I'm doing some separate work depending on if the client ID changed, and some separate work depending on if, So each of the individual config values could potentially take a bit of time to update everything that they need to update. So do I make these run in parallel? Right? Because like this could potentially make network calls. This could also potentially make network calls. This messes with the file system. This also messes with the file system. So, should I do all 4 of these things in parallel? I feel like these two might conflict with each other because this clear auth data tries to cancel the connect attempt and closes the WebSocket, which this also does. Right? Tries to cancel the connect attempt here and then tries to close it. Is there any reason that, like, if I were to run these on different threads, is there any reason that would break? Because trying to cancel the connect attempt just does this. Is this gonna communicates a request for cancellation? Would this throw if it's already canceled? Is this going to throw an exception? It does not. Okay, cool. So then that calling this function twice should be fine. It's just this. Right? Because we're attempting to close, and then we're attempting to delete event subs. So calling this from two different threads at the same time could be an issue. Yeah, because especially when we try and delete the event subscriptions, it could potentially be the case that we're trying to delete an event subscription that has already been deleted, which will throw an error. It'll throw an exception. So I don't think we can do these two at the same time. We should be able to do, like, if we grouped these two into one, if we did both of these things synchronously but on their own thread, and then this on its own thread, and then this on its own thread, that could work. That way, if we change, let's say, you know, if we change multiple config values, they can still get updated somewhat parallel-like. Right, so if I were to say update broadcaster username task and set that to a completed task, and then if the right conditions are met, then I can say I can reassign it to this. So now it'll run this on a new thing. Yeah, that should be fine. I can say update client ID task. We'll assign it to be a completed task, and then we'll do the same thing down here. Oops, there we go. Okay, but we want this to not run until this task is completed, which I believe I've set up a helper function for. Fire trials error after. This starts up a new task. It waits for all the previous tasks to complete, and then it runs this in a try catch. That should be exactly what I'm looking for. So if I say, just give myself some room here, should be task helper dot there we go. Okay. So whoops. So the thing that I want to do, that's not how you do that. Okay, so the thing that I want to do is clear the cached authorization data, and the task that I want to wait until is done before I do that is this one. And then the try catch is built into this function here. So now I can just say this. Oh, actually, yeah, I'm gonna need to do something like this. In panel.authorize, update authorized button, but that needs to happen on the UI thread, this function. So what did I use? Dispatcher UI thread invoke. That's right. Okay. So now this function should be called on the UI thread. And then we assign it to this update client ID task. So now, in theory, right, the idea is that we initialize this variable to an already completed task. It's going to check to see if our input is any different than what we already have saved. And if it is the same, then it's just going to skip over this, right? So this variable is going to be equal to a completed task that's already completed. Then we do a similar thing with the client ID. If we detect that that our inputted client ID is any different than the one we already have saved, then it's going to fire up a new thread. It's going to wait for the broadcaster username task to be completed. And then it's going to clear the authorization data and update the button. But if we have not changed the broadcaster username, then this is an already completed task, which means it doesn't really have to wait for anything to happen. If we did update the broadcaster username, then it's going to set the task to this task that's now running on a different thread. And so it will wait for that operation to fully complete, and then it'll do this stuff. Okay. And we do actually have this function fire trials error that we can use here. So if I say task helper dot fire actually I can just give it this, right? There we go. And set this equal to it. And that should be equivalent. Should be exactly the same thing. Okay. And then we'll do something similar here. So var update num max log files task is equal to a completed task. And then if we do end up needing to actually update that, oops, then we will do so on a new thread. Throw that in there. We can get rid of this whole try catch because it's built into this helper function. We can assign this task here. Okay, and then we want to do the exact same thing here. Except we're going to save the config file instead of that. And this is going to be a new variable. This is going to be save, we can say config save task. Okay, and now before we update the UI, we can just simply wait for the update. Let's format it like this. We can wait for the update broadcast username task, the update client ID task, the update num max log files task, and the config save task. Can I put a trailing comma? I cannot. Okay. So in theory, what this should do is if we need to update the broadcaster username, it'll do that on a separate thread. If we need to update the client ID, it'll do that on a separate thread, but it will wait until the broadcaster username update has finished. If we need to update the max log files, then it'll do that on a separate thread. And then it will guaranteed save the config file in a separate task. And then it'll wait for all of those tasks to finish. And then it'll update the UI. So, I don't really have a great way of testing this. I mean, I could go through like a very long setup process just to make sure that this all works, but that feels like I'm not believing in myself. You know, I should just trust that it'll work first try. Who needs to test code when you believe in yourself? I never test code. Exactly. And you have a fantastic product. So, you know, we should all learn from the best. I only send to production, and if it breaks, I fix. Exactly. Test in production. Nobody needs, like, different environments or, like, a quality assurance team. And those are just extra business expenses, you know? Things big companies they use them to try and make it sound like making a product is this big deal. But really, you just ship the code. Everybody says just do an MVP. If it works on my machine, it's good enough. Exactly. No, I want to do a big scan of like all the APIs I'm using and everything, so that this could work on Linux devices. I'm not worried about Apple because screw Apple, but I know at least it'll work on Windows, or at least my Windows machine. But I'm like 99% sure that it would not work on Linux with the current setup that I have. So I kind of want to do that. And I don't think it'll be that difficult, but we'll see. Anyway, this should be fine. Let me just I'll give it a test. It won't be like a full thorough test, but just to make sure that the basic functionality works. I'll delete that. I don't know, maybe set that to like 8. Save. Cool. Goes back down to 5. Save. Okay. Any errors? No errors. All right. Very basic test. It doesn't actually test the functionality that I just implemented, but it should be fine. The thing with mine is I just have to make it work on one server. You need to make it work on multiple computers with different hardware. Yeah. Which, you know, C#.net is like supposed to be like super cross-platform. Again, some of the APIs that I'm using make it like Windows specific, so that's why I kind of want to change it eventually. But for now, I'm just trying to make it work at all, and then I can worry about making it work on other machines. But yeah, in theory, it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, what chaos have I caused here? So look through all that. Config panel, I think, is a lot of the stuff that I changed. Apollonia threading, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Alright. I think that's pretty good. Basically, I took 5 months making work for me, a year and a half making work for multiple users. Did you, when you started making it, did you like already try testing the code on a server, or did you just try and get it working locally first? It also supports Spotify for song requests, and later for the UI of song playing, later for TikTok API for shorts links. Jeez. That's so much stuff. I'm thoroughly impressed. I've said it already, but that sounds like, you know, a full like professional grade product. I had it working on a server because I didn't want to deal with initializing it every time I want to stream. Yeah, no, like I meant like when you first started making it, did you like, you know, make like a testing server that just was, you know, hosted on your own machine, or did you actually like put it up on a real server? I don't remember the terminology for like running a server on your own machine, or like mocking a server on your own machine. Yeah, server. Interesting. I'm kind of curious how difficult that would be to set up and everything. When I'm coding it, I do have a small server on my machine to test the functionality, but after that, I always send it to the server, even when it was only for me. Oh, okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. I have a question about or concerning personal preferences. So, in the configuration page, I've got these little question mark buttons, right? You click on them, and they'll give you a little bit of information about the particular configuration value. So if I click on this one, broadcaster username, this is the username, case insensitive, so it doesn't matter what capitalization you use, of the broadcaster whose chat Stonebot will connect to. Does that make sense? I feel like broadcaster username is like self-explanatory, but do you think I need to change this? Would this make sense to you if you were a user trying to figure out what broadcaster username meant? And then follow-up question. Does the size of these text boxes bother you in any way? So from what I could find, the maximum Twitch username is like 25 characters, I think it is. So this text box is set up so that it can fit exactly 25 characters in it. And then the client ID text box is set up so that it can fit all the client ID characters. But because they're like different sizes, I don't know, I feel like it looks weird. For me it does, but I'm also a technical guy. I would just recommend to put your channel name. Yeah, okay. Client and name do it same size. The bottom one, because it has number input, doesn't matter much. Okay. That makes sense. Okay, broadcaster username. 335. All right, what do we think about this? That looks nicer. Good call. Okay. Client ID. So this is the client ID of your Twitch application, which can be found at. And then, so this was left over from like when I actually had setup instructions on the GitHub. I feel like I could keep that. But yeah, there's just these two links to the console, to the Twitch console, and to the GitHub. Cause so like I plan on making a YouTube video that goes over like the entire setup process and like everything that Stonebot can do. That way, I can just link that video if anybody has, if anybody needs to set it up. Obviously, I'll like answer questions if somebody wants to use it and has questions, but I feel like making a setup guide in video format is good, as well as having like a thorough README. So that's why I have the GitHub link, but I don't know. Should I have it in here? And there's also this. So you can click on these and they'll pop up in your browser. Oh, I'm currently logged in as Stonebot. Okay, whoops. That's right, because I had to authorize it at the beginning of stream when I showed that off, but okay. And then the link to the GitHub also works. Although the branch that I'm working on is not the current branch, so like these setup instructions are not at all correct. Do not pay attention. These are all wrong. I feel like that's okay. And then max log files. Like this feels like it's a bit much, It feels like it's a bit too wordy. Every time Stonebot is launched, it writes a new log file to this folder in your local app data folder. If the number of files in the logs folder exceeds this value, logs will be deleted starting from the oldest. And then it tells you what the range is and what the default value is. And then you can click on this and it'll pop up the logs folder. It's like, I feel like I don't know. I feel like all that makes sense. But of course, I'm the one that made all of that functionality, so it makes sense to me. But, you know, this button also, I need to change this button because it's currently both the login and log out button, but it doesn't really it's not intuitive, I don't think. Right? So you can click it and then it's like, are you sure you want to remove your authorization data? And then you can go to here and then, you know, again, I'm logged in as Stonebot right now, but like you can go down to these connection things and you can disconnect it. Oh, actually, I should have been, yeah, logging in as Stonebot is actually, yeah, so it shows up here, Stonebot 5555. So like that's how you would fully disconnect, or you can just, you know, click the OK button and it'll remove all of the cached data associated with your login. And then, you know, if this button, if you are logged out, then it'll say, you know, like click to authorize, and then you can click it and it'll start the authorization process. But that's not great design, I feel like. Like, I don't know. I feel like I should have one button that's like, I don't even know how to phrase it properly, because it's not, you're not necessarily logging in, you're just giving Stonebot authorization. So I feel like authorize, having the text authorize on the button be good. And then like, I don't know, should I display the username in just some text and then have a completely separate button for logging out? Or like, I don't know, maybe it can just be a trash can icon, and then that can be your clear authorization data. That could work. I kind of like that idea. The other thing that I want to change is the pop-up that shows when you are going through the authorization process. Authorize button. Oh, it's like a separate UI element, right? Confirm auth pop-up. Yeah, so like why is this out of line? Excuse you. So it uses the device code authorization grant flow, which means that it'll navigate you to a certain URL. You have to put in a code that's associated with this device, and then you can hit the authorize button in the browser, and then you can come back to Stonebot and you can click the done button, and then it'll fetch the access token. So the text in the pop-up that shows when you like initially click the quote-unquote login button is this. So please enter this code in your browser, and then it displays the code. And then I want to add like a button you can click that'll just automatically copy it to your clipboard. But like it should automatically open up a browser tab for you to the correct URL, and the correct URL should like pre-fill the user code. But, you know, just in case, I feel like we could add a button to copy the user code that gets displayed. Oh, you know what? That's another thing. I'm probably gonna end stream here relatively soon, but I do want to see. I do want to look at something. and I'll show you what I mean. So basically all of the text in the UI, like if I click and drag, you see I cannot highlight any of the text. So it's not like selectable. So like this is selectable obviously because it's in like an editable thing, but like none of this text you can't select any of it. If you're in like a pop-up, you know, you can't select any of that text. I do want to make that a possibility. So I'm gonna Google it real quick to see if it's like a super easy thing. Selectable text box, text block. A label for the display of text that allows selecting and copying of text. It can display multiple lines and features full control over the font used. Selectable text block. Let's see what happens when I try and use that. Instead of extending text block, let's extend selectable text block. Does that break everything? Does not appear to be broken, but I also can't select anything. Let me look at the doc again. Useful properties. A character index for the start of the current selection. Character index for the end. A brush that highlights. Example. Selection brush red. The styling works in the preview pane. I can't interact with it. It's just a picture. Okay. Selection brush. Selection brush. Sure, we'll make it danger. No? Oh, this should be brush. Okay. Ah, okay, there we go. Now we can select it. Nice. Shows up as red, which is interesting, but I can't select any of the text that's like in a button. Could I select like, it doesn't look like it. So I can't like start dragging from outside of the text. So like if I click here and drag to the left, it doesn't select that. But if I... Yeah, okay, interesting. So what were the other properties that it said would be useful? Space preserve. Text block itself would respect the line breaks and white space of its content as set out in... It will be filtered out by parser. What does that mean? I have no idea what it wants me to do here. XML space preserve. XML space. I don't know what it wants me to put there. Oops. This one. It only ever shows an example of using XAML. Source code. Okay, I mean, I can look at the source code in my editor. I just don't understand what this XML space equals preserve is supposed to do. I don't know. Is there like a hover, like a mouse? I don't know, because when I hover my mouse over the text, like normally if you hover over something that's like editable, right? See how my mouse is like the eye shape? But if I hover over just config, you can see it's just like the regular mouse. I'm not sure how to get that functionality. Avalonia. What, like on hover or something like that? No, I don't think that's gonna help. Selection. Cursor gets the associated cursor. Let's try that. Cursor. What is this even supposed to be? It's supposed to be an input cursor. Default. Okay, what are my other options? Dot parse? What do you mean? Interesting how you're going to do a video for documentation. I thought of that, but I don't want to make multiple videos, just short clips inside this side and text, and a separate site for documentation, like a framework, just say the likes. Yeah, I don't really know how I want to do it completely. I mean, I do feel like, you know, having one video with just timestamps and chapters in it, I feel like that would, you know, be good for somebody who's like brand new to the product. But yeah, if somebody who already is familiar with it is trying to get like just a particular piece of information, then I do want to have some kind of text documentation. So I feel like I feel like both is probably a good idea. Okay, cursor, how do I, but this doesn't tell me how to use it. Bro. tell me how to use the cursor. No, this one. How use standard cursor type arrow. Oh, okay. No. I-beam, there we go. That's what I've been looking for this whole time. Okay. Let's try that. Let me clean up my code here. There we go. AI like Grok code helps me a lot with small UI changes and GPT-5 with large ones, but my backend code and all the bot logic still manual. Yeah, I try not to do to mess with AI like unless I feel like it's better than Google, because even for like simple things, nice, it changes. That's sick. Sometimes even for simple things it makes mistakes, which is annoying. Just look at that. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, it's so cool. Okay. What color should we make the highlight? It's so beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love it. Can I copy? Can I copy? Copy. Paste. Oh, it works. Oh, it's so beautiful. Not good with design and stuff. All the visual part of the website is AI. I'm the same way. I am not good at coming up with user interfaces. And especially for like, you know, tedious HTML type stuff. You know, unless you're using like some super fancy front-end framework, then it's just, yeah, it's usually easier to just have like an AI generate some HTML, CSS. Okay. Because like I did that when I had the old authorization process. I did that for there were two HTML files. There was like an authorization success and an authorization failure. Both of those were generated by AI initially, and then I went back through and like cleaned some stuff up. Because again, even for like simple stuff, it doesn't always get it right. It's also a little bit annoying that, especially with like, you know, making small changes where it's like, oh, I actually want this button to be slightly different shade of, you know, green or whatever. And you do that, if you do that enough times, eventually it'll lose the plot. And then you got to start a new chat and you're like, hey, I've got this brand new idea that you've never heard of before. Oops. Oh, do this. Give me my options. We could do warning brush. What's warning brush 4 look like? I'm pretty sure it's some kind of yellow. Oh, that's impossible to see. Give me a brighter warning. Please, make it like gold. Okay, that's a little bit hard on the eyes, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, it's definitely more visible, but with the white text, I don't think yellow is the way to go. What do you think? What color should we go with? Just like gray, some kind of gray neutral color 4. Nope, neutral brush 4. Brush. That'd be like a dark-ish gray. Okay, not as dark as I was thinking, but it is gray. I don't know. What does Twitch use? If I try and highlight this, it uses blue. Okay. Pause. I have a blue color. I call it Info Brush. Info Brush 4? That's gonna be like a really dark blue. It is so dark, it blends into the background. I can barely even see a difference. Okay. Okay, so maybe not that dark. Let's make it 2. Let's make it like, you know, reasonable. It might be the same color as the buttons at that point. It is the same color as the buttons, but also it doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty good. I kind of like that color. Yeah, if we went one shade darker, I don't think it would work as well. I kind of like that. I like it. Okay, cool. That was not as bad as I thought. I mean, it was a little bad because I had to figure out like the cursor and the whatever. But not too terribly bad. Okay. For next time, I need to untangle the mess that is this authorize button, because that is also not asynchronous, which I think it should be, at least in some parts. Config page is actually probably exactly what I want it to be right now. Like, maybe we could make the text bigger, I guess, but I don't care a whole lot about that. Oh, actually, the save and the cancel button, I do want to change these to icons rather than words. Also, I feel like it's just kind of weird having them, you know, like in the header off to the right. Do you think they should be down at the bottom? Like, we can have the cancel button in the bottom left and the save button in the bottom right or something like that. I don't know. What do you think? Any ideas? Any thoughts? I do like the gear icon. Although maybe it could do with a black outline so it doesn't blend in with the blue button as much. Could definitely adjust that. Yeah, here. Yeah, I think it could definitely use with a black border. I don't know. I don't know where to put the cancel and save button. I mean, if I'm gonna make them icons, I don't know. I don't know. I wish I knew. Leave it as text for accessibility and also icons. Ooh, that's true. Yeah, we could have like an icon, like a, you know, like a floppy disk icon to the left of the word save. That could work. and then cancel. I don't know. Just have it the word cancel, I guess. But yeah, but probably next major thing is to update this authorize button. And then also I need to add a button to like create new commands, because all of the underlying logic for that is still there. Oh, I need to figure out a versioning system for basically everything. That's a problem for future me. For now, I feel like we made some good progress. Switch over here. I just realized I completely forgot to put on my background music. I am so sorry. I hope you all had your own background music on, because I completely forgot mine. I apologize. I should have had that. Whoops. I'm a good streamer, right, guys? What if we partner so that way we have a server side and a local side for extra functionality, like mic, screen, and more? Ooh. I mean, it could be interesting. So the only reason that mine is entirely local is because I want to have the ability for the user to write their own Python scripts, and then basically whenever a chatter types in a command, that Python script gets executed. And that kind of functionality can't really be done server side, because you don't really want to run arbitrary code on a server, right? So the scripts have to be run completely on the user's machine, unless they decide to set up their own server, in which case it gets a little bit complicated. But that's why mine is entirely local. But like for like some of the stuff that you were mentioning earlier about like the TikTok API and Spotify and stuff like that, that could definitely be server side. I am going to make it anyway, so the streamer can say bot name change game yo blah and it would do, or ban this user and it would do it, or also I want for premium to like detect a game open and automatically change category and stuff. Ooh. Yeah, I feel like you might be able to make a plugin for OBS to do that slightly easier. But that would be pretty cool. Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to look into it. I don't know how to do it off the top of my head. I want for the streamer to not need mods, only one for redundancy. You mean like mods for a particular video game or something? Yeah, like automatically switching categories would be cool. Although at the same time, I feel like it highly depends on the user. Because I know some people would want to change like the tags that are on that they're using along with the category, but you could do the voice thing like you were mentioning, where you just say, hey bot, change my tags to this, this, and this. All in one. Oh, I also want a stream loots version, but one that can take over the PC if you enable the cards to do so. And I'm adding donations like PayPal to the bot to show alerts and have everything tracking on the bot all in one. Jeez, that is a lot. That's all in one. Everything would be modular. User can enable or disable what they need or don't. That makes sense. Yeah, that'd be cool. That's so much stuff though. That's wild. And now it makes a lot more sense that you want to make this into a business, because how the hell else are you gonna this, if I tried to do this would be like my life's work. It sounds like this is pretty important to you as well, but like, holy. Right now the bot has trigger alerts, but only if the user wants to. Okay. Gotcha. I've been here 2 years now on November. I mean, I feel like I've spent, well, yeah, I don't think I've ever spent that long on a project. So like Stonebot has gone through many phases, and there have been long gaps of me not working on it. But I did start the project, what, like 3 or 4-ish years ago? But again, like I said, there have been like really long gaps where I just didn't do anything about it on it. So I don't think that I've actually worked on it for like 2 years. I don't think that I could say that confidently. So you've got me beat there. But still, you know, it seems like it's, you know, with all the stuff that you wanted to do, for me, it would take like forever. It would definitely be like my life's work. Went to press for 6 months, so technically a year and a half. Gotcha. Yeah. I tend to have off and on moments where I'm like super motivated to work on whatever project I'm doing, and then like sometimes I'll get distracted by some other project that I want to work on, but then there are other times where I'm just like, I don't really want to do anything right now, and then that just entirely kills the momentum of whatever it was that I was doing. And I feel like a lot of it was due to just like poor design, because like I would start a project and I would have a good idea of what I wanted it to do, and then I'd start working on it, and then, you know, I'd spend a couple months away from it and come back and just realize this is kind of garbage. Like, it's a cool idea, but the code is just awful. And you know, that can be demotivating to coming back to a project, and it's like just getting started on it again is a monumental task. So that can be annoying, but again, I feel like with this project, at least with the version that I'm currently working on, I feel like I've designed it in a way that it's not too bad. Like, I feel like it could definitely be improved, but it's not so bad that I like can't come back to it, you know? I'm all here for the Stonebot. I'll be supporter through development. I appreciate that. And that is obviously a huge motivation. Having people that are, you know, invested in the project that aren't yourself, even if it's not like they don't work on it, even if they're just like, you know, interested in the development, that's obviously a huge motivation. So I appreciate it. The code comes and go, but the bot already had a full rewrite because of me not implementing cache since the beginning and more modularity. Yeah, see, that's one of the things that I'm talking about, right? Where it's like you leave the project for a while, and then when you come back, you're like, wow, this thing, you know, needs a complete rewrite. I have to do, you know, so much of this stuff just to add the features that I want. And then it just feels like you're starting from scratch, at which point some of the motivation is just lost. I got here because I saw you're working on a Twitch bot. Yeah. I'm happy seeing someone else doing the same thing as me. It is pretty cool, yeah. Um, there are some like YouTubers, like coding YouTubers that I watch. Um, but none of them. They're mostly like, I don't know. I don't think I can lump them into like one category. But like none of them are doing some of the things that I am, right? Nothing even close to making a Twitch bot. So it's cool to, you know, find somebody else that's doing that. The rewrite took me 4 months. I didn't leave it. Just needed cash and saw that it was easier to rewrite than add it manually. Yeah. That makes sense. If you need anything, I'll gladly help out. I appreciate that. I think, again, this project in particular has me like more motivated than some of my other projects. Again, partly because I feel like the code is designed in a better way. It's not perfect. I feel like it definitely could be improved, but you know, it's good enough. Um, and then the other thing is that like I feel like it's been fun, you know, throughout the entire process, getting getting the WebSocket to work, you know, doing the grunt work, the you know, the back end, getting the back end working, figuring out Twitch API stuff, um, the logging system, the authorization process. Obviously, I've had to redo that, but you know, getting that set up in the first place, you know, was a little bit tedious, but it was all. I feel like it was always fun. You know, it was always like, ooh, I get to work on this new cool thing that is interesting to me, and it feels like every step of the process is like that. You know, where it's never like, okay, well, I've done all the fun stuff and now I just have to do all the tedious UI work, you know. And like UI to me is a little bit tedious, but on this project in particular, it doesn't feel like it's been a slog, you know. It doesn't feel like I've had to trudge my way through it. But hey, the rewrite took me from spending $2 a month on DB to none since I added cash because the bill is like 10 cents that the DB provider doesn't even bother on it. That's funny. Oh, why did my camera do that? Okay, weird. Twitch API is a bitch, but being sincere, Google is hellspace. Really? I feel like the YouTube API, I mean, maybe some other Google APIs are different, but I feel like the YouTube API was like way easier than Twitch. Same. Screw UI. Why don't more users know CLI? Exactly. Who needs to look at things? It doesn't have to look pretty. It just has to do, you know? I saw YouTube API and Drive API was like, nope, not for me. It's been a while since I've done anything with the YouTube API, but I remember at the time thinking that it was so much easier than anything else I had used. So maybe that was just me not being experienced with good APIs. But TikTok API and Spotify API are beautiful. Okay, I'm kind of curious now then. Spotify, really? I mean, I guess that makes sense. Spotify strikes me as one of those companies that would be. Why does my camera keep doing that? That would be like worse than Google in terms of tech. What is my camera doing? Okay. Making the Spotify plugin was smooth. That'd be cool. Does Spotify cost? Does the Spotify API cost much? I need to learn Stripe though. Everybody says it's awful because of separate states between Stripe and your app. Oh. Yeah, I know Stripe is like pretty common for payment stuff. But I don't think I've ever, like, the company that I work at, they use it, but I don't think I've ever had to mess with it myself. Spotify API is free, but is only available for premium users. Okay, so no free users can use what you make with the API. Oh, I see. Okay. Interesting. I guess that makes sense, though. That would be cool. Might do something with that. But I've got to finish Stonebot first. In case you couldn't tell, there's quite a few things that still need to happen with Stonebot before, I actually start making a bot with it. Because that's the thing, right? Is that I've kind of advertised Stonebot as a chatbot, but really what it is it's a developer tool to create your own chatbot, right? Like, the Stonebot program itself doesn't, that's not the chatbot. You still have to, a user of Stonebot still has to go into Twitch, register a new application, and then use that information to then configure Stonebot. And then they also have to write their own scripts for Stonebot to then execute. So Stonebot really isn't the chatbot. It's a tool that you can use to make a chatbot. But that's a little bit more complicated to explain than just saying, yep, it's a chatbot, Okay. Anyway, 3.5 hours. I honestly was not expecting to go for this long, but it was fun. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you for watching. I appreciate everybody being here. I hope you have a wonderful day. Especially you, Dom. Happy birthday. But yeah, see you later.